I don't really talk a lot about it, but the
Mm-hmm.
more I do, the more I'm like, because in the beginning I started with it without any purpose to really like connect with my culture, to be honest, because I was just
Okay.
like, yeah, like it was like when I went to the souks, it's like the typical shops, small hidden shops in Tunisia.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something we went like each year to Tunisia to see, like visit the family and stuff. And for me, like go to these small shops where you have so many like beautiful carpets and like jewelry and stuff like that. For me, it was like the coolest like moment of my trips, to be honest, because I always have been a jewelry lover.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and I just like I went inside a shop, and it was like totally not attractive like the other ones, but it was like, yeah, you had like so many boxes and everything was like all over the place, but still I was so intrigued. And it's like actually 11 years ago, first time I stepped into that shop.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's where it started actually. um yeah, and there my interest in my culture, like since that day, really like grow more and more. And that's when I realized how cool. I knew it already, but I was not conscious about it because yeah, I still live in Belgium and you're not always confronted with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized, wow, we really have so many treasures here and I have to use it. So that's how it actually really started for me. And I realized how many resources that we have in our own culture, and how many beautiful things we can do with it actually. And we don't have to like look like to in other places. So yeah, it was really like, yeah, for me it started actually that day, even though I go to Tunisia like since I'm born. So yeah, it was one of the coolest day actually of my trips in Tunisia. So yeah.
So you didn't really start like, there wasn't like right away the you didn't want to learn about your culture through that. It started more as a passion, actually.
Yeah, actually, because I also studied engineering architecture. I went to an art school, so I was always like kind of interested in aesthetics and patterns and
Mm-hmm.
everything like doing with it. And um, so for me at the beginning, I was just actually making jewelry for myself. And at the beginning, it was really minimalistic because yeah, you know, I grew up in Belgium and everything has to be really clean and nice
Yeah.
and you know. And so I was also doing that in the beginning. And it's by doing it that I realized it actually. And that's also how I started to also make stuff for my friends around me and people that I know like by Facebook or stuff, because they saw what I was doing. And then I really started making jewelry to sell actually.
Mm-hmm.
But in the beginning, yeah, I was just doing it actually without really realizing it. But I always like loved aesthetics and jewelry. So yeah, but I like to learn, but that was not the main goal with starting doing that actually.
Mm-hmm.
But it became really a passion for me and something that I see myself doing my whole life without any
Yeah.
problems. So
So then you really started like learning more about your culture and your
yeah,
tradition.
yeah,
And what
exactly.
is your grandma like one of your biggest inspirations? Like the parties and or like the celebrations. Um,
Yes, yeah, yeah.
is that your biggest inspiration, or what is it exactly?
For me, my biggest inspiration are like my grandmothers and also my aunts. They were always wearing like really these traditional um, textile with like these really traditional, typical fibulas that we call in English. We call this
Mm-hmm.
khlal in Arabic. And I was always fascinated by it, and because it was really big and it could hold like a whole outfit. And for me, it was I always find it cool, even though I would never wear it because yeah, you know, most of the time it's your grandmothers or aunts that wear that. And so when I saw that, because I have like also a bunch of them actually from home that I bought from the old town of my grandmother. And for me, I'm just like, I even have one just next to me. So for the people maybe that will see the jewel, this is like the chlel
Oh
that I'm
wow,
talking
that's
about, the
so
figurine.
cool.
And I don't know, but like, yeah, it's really cool because it's really simple shapes. Like you have a triangle and just like a circle, but it's so cool and
Yeah.
it tells so many about the story. And you also have like the details also like tell so many things about the region from where it's coming and the country, because you all also have like these type and Morocco and Algeria, but this you can know by the details that it's from Tunisia.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, it's like a simple shape, but it tells so many things
Yeah.
about when and where it's from. So that's actually really like my big thing, like that I really love about the jewelry. I could buy like thousands of them. I would really like start collecting them. So but for me, like my biggest inspiration are really my grandmother, because for me it's also a way to because I also had lack of my language of Arabic, make it
Mm.
difficult to also communicate with my grandmothers and my family. So for me, in that way, because it was difficult to really understand all the time everything and to really know why do they wear this during the Tunisian weddings, and because most of the time it's like a couple of days, the marriages, for example, and in Tunisia, and then first day they have to wear this, the second day they have to wear another accessory.
Mm-hmm.
So but in the beginning, because of the lack of the languages, I so many details and things I could not really know. And for me, when I see a piece like that, I asked to the guy with who I work with in Tunisia, I was like, yeah, why did they wear that? And when and where, which region in Tunisia? So for me, it's also a way to learn about the pieces when I'm like making them or trying to like refurbish them. So that's my way of learning, because I lost so many stories that I couldn't understand when I was
Yeah.
little. So for me, I'm trying to get it back in a way, because I would really like on the long term to like make a really graphical book where I explain each piece, why it was worn,
Mm-hmm.
when and how. So for me, it's not only about making jewelry and sell them, but also a way to learn about it through like when I'm in the atelier with the guy, the goldsmith, I'm doing the pieces. So it's like a mix of so many things, but it's really around my tradition and my culture. So this is like the common point of everything I'm doing around it.
So did your perception of your culture change through these years? Because I guess like at the beginning, maybe you didn't know a lot about your heritage, but you probably live in a Tunisian household, so you know like the basics, but you don't really know the details. So did your perception change like while making these pieces and while learning more about your grandmas and the celebrations and stuff?
Yeah, of course. Like my perception really changed. Like I said in the beginning, I really realized what kind of treasure that we have, actually, that I have in my culture and my country. Um, and also, but for example, because I also started to ask more questions, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, like mostly to my dad that knows so many things. And in the beginning, from him, it was like for him it's details and something he grew up in that. So for him, it's, I'm not going to say it's less special, but it's more obvious for him.
Yeah.
But when in the beginning I never asked questions, and he never really also told us about it, but when I started asking questions, he could also always answer me. And then I was like, oh yeah, wow, I really like the story behind it. And oh, actually this is so nice, and all these details and these meanings behind it are so cool. And then it gave me like just even more the envy to like to 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 look for even more details. So my
Mm-hmm.
perception really changed, and it also gave me the idea to maybe do something in Tunisia. Like before, I would never imagine to do it, because it's still only a place I go to in the summer, where I mostly just see family. So for me, it was always obvious that I would still do everything in Belgium, but that it's really opened like other opportunities in the long run for me. And I really want to like do some projects in Tunisia too. So, or even live there. I would like. So for me, it's really like, it was like a kind of big opener. No,
Eye
eye
opener.
opener. Oh God, sorry, eye
No
opener.
problem.
So many languages in my head at the end. It's so difficult to switch from one to the other. So
But
yeah,
did you ever, I don't know, like personally, because I didn't grow up with my parents' culture, like I never lived in the country. Like I lived in that household, but I never lived in the country, so in the society. And sometimes I feel like I'm kind of a fraud, like learning about my culture, like through books and documentaries and actually reading about stuff and hearing stories, but never really living them. You know, and then it's like, it is my tradition, but I'm just like, I'm very, it's like secondhand experiences kind of.
yeah, I know what you mean. But I also have this sometimes when I'm doing stuff with my jewelry. I'm like, yeah, I'm that girl that is coming from Belgium that comes to Tunisia and takes
Yeah.
some knowledge and some stuff, and then I go back to Belgium with it. And it's true that some I'm like, yeah, it's like I'm a fraud, like weirdly, but I'm not really. But still, sometimes I have this feeling of being a fraud or something. So I can totally like relate to that, I think. But that's why that on the long run, I'm like, I really want to go live there
Yeah.
and really like live these experiences that I like you like could like learn by stories that I heard from my family or people that I met like via friends and family. So yeah, but that's why I want to like go a step further and just go live there and like
Yeah.
do projects and be involved in the daily life of like yeah, of my family, and really like also learn the language, because language is still like one of the strongest way to communicate between people and to learn so many details that you cannot find in books and on websites and etc. But it's still it's a big process too, because yeah, you still live here, so learn the language is sometimes always like an obstacle.
Yeah.
But I totally understand you that sometimes you're like, I'm just coming and I'm going back, you know? So it's like you have
Yeah.
a double life. And yeah, so yeah, sometimes I still have this feeling.
I'm very curious, like, what's your favorite piece? Is it like a specific symbol that like speaks to you, or what is your favorite piece of Fayahen?
My favorite piece of Fayahen is actually like I made some earrings and also a pendant from it. It's actually this piece that I showed you, but in small. So this is actually something I really want to work with, like on the long run, and really like see different ways to wear it as a pendant, as earrings, as rings, as necklaces, and also maybe to like try to use the textile that my grandmothers used to try to even fix some clothes with it, create outfits. So for me, this is actually my most favorite piece of all. But this is one of this piece, for example, I will never sell because it's so old and it's from the town of my grandmother and so special and rare. But this is mostly, I even take all the time when I travel, I always have a small one. I always put one in my book. It's like yeah, something I take with me to have some luck or something, or to remember.
That's
Not
so nice.
where I'm come from, because I know, but it's something I always will take with me when I
Yeah.
change, when I travel, or when I go to a city trip. I always try to take it with me. It's yeah, it's like a special symbol for me. It always remembers my grandmother's actually. So for me, it's my favorite piece.
So I was wondering, did you
Yeah.
try to, you know, embrace like Belgian features or like Western features in the jewelry, or were you like, no, I'm gonna go with my heritage, I'm not gonna try to mesh it up, I'm just gonna do one thing?
So in the beginning, I was like, no, I will do everything minimalistic, and
Yeah.
it was really like simple and clean. And then I switched more to more traditional, more statement jewelry. But then I was like, the balance is still not there. And now my last collection that I created, I try to find a balance between them, because I still like minimalistic things. Some days I just want to wear some like really simple necklace or just one ring, and other days I really want to have like an outfit with so many like accessories.
Mm.
So for me, I still like both. I still like Belgian jewelry that is really fine and simple and minimalistic. But I also really like some statement jewelry, traditional ones that you cannot find anywhere else. So this is still like something I that I will try to realize, is to still find a balance between them, because I'm just trying to accept both sides.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to, because they are both my reality, I think, in a
Yeah.
way. So, and I like them both. So I just try to take like the best part of each side and to just bring them together and accept them. Um, and also I wanted to be like, I also want to create something that is for everyone,
Yeah.
or people that like to combine things, something simple, something statements, because I like that. I like it that way. So I just accepted both and just try to incorporate it in different pieces. So it depends.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. So that's a little how I try to work with the jewelry.
Do you want to keep it, in the community and being like, this is our heritage, and just translating it in a modern key, but it's for us? Or do you want to do something that is really for everybody?
But for me, my aim goal is to like offer something that people of my community cannot find anywhere else. For me, it's most important that I can just relate to a
Yeah.
piece. If they buy it or not, I actually don't care. But for me, it's important that they can find something on the market that is like, oh, this reminds me of my
Mm-hmm.
grandmother, or this reminds me of my aunt, or someone in the family that was always wearing that. It's like a little nostalgic. And for me, this is like the most important. And yeah, of course, I try to do it for people of my community, but everyone can, I try to make it like that way that everyone can find himself into it, because I still
Yeah.
balance the Belgian and the Tunisian style. So I think it it's for everyone. But mostly it's really important for me that people can relate to the pieces and the stories behind each piece, because that's also something that I try to do, is to always give the story behind each piece that I put
Mm-hmm.
online, and to not just put it like that online and people have to figure it out. Because I also know a lot of people of my community that didn't go each year to their homeland.
Mm-hmm.
So for them, it's even more difficult to know about these things. So for me, it's just important that they can relate, but it's for everyone. But most
Mm-hmm.
importantly, for my community, that yeah, they can just find themselves in something that is difficult to find here in Belgium.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a little bit.
No, I think it's very nice, because I know that feeling, like sometimes just walking around the street, I see something that belongs to my parents' culture that you usually don't see in Belgium, and I'm like, oh my God, I know that. Like, I remember when I was young, and I don't know, like my dad would do this or do that, and just one object can bring like so many memories and just so many feelings back. So
Yeah, exactly. It's like the feeling, a feeling that is so special, and that you cannot just find at a basic shop that everyone can buy it. So
mm-hmm.
it's that feeling around it that is really important, I think. And when you buy it, you will also want it to wear like each day, or if you wear it, someone will ask you, where is it coming from? And then you
Mm-hmm.
can tell the story behind it. And then yeah, a discussion started about your culture and tradition. And yeah, it can be something really nice. And for me, it's like also important people know what they are wearing, and not
Yeah.
something that is just beautiful. But it's also sometimes nice to just buy something that is beautiful. But if they can buy if they buy my pieces, I like them to take a small piece of history with them,
Yes.
so an experience or a memory. So yeah, I think, yeah, like you said, it's like emotions that are like brought up, and yeah, this feeling is so nice, I think. And you appreciate, I think, also even more your culture in that way, or
Oh yeah, definitely.
you want to connect
Yeah.
even more that way. Yeah, so like positive triggers or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
if I can call it like that. Yeah, so that's what because that's how, when I see boxes with so many old things, I'm like, oh, I want to show this to everyone, how beautiful it is, and I want to take pictures of everything. Because that's maybe also something that I would like to do with the jewelry, so like create an exposition with really old pieces and just tell the story behind it, and at the same time for myself to learn about it. So it's sharing, but also like trying to to know my story and tradition.
Yeah.
So it's like a
But I
process.
think that's very nice, because it becomes like you are really giving like a piece of your heritage to people, or you're showing like a piece of your heritage. It's not just, I mean, of course it's very pretty, I think it's gorgeous, and it's very nice to see, but it also has like a lot of meaning, and you give the context, and you give, you know, the, I want to say instructions, not really instructions, but just like the history behind it. And I think that's super cool. And like, I feel like if you then make something like this, you're kind of evolving, like the tradition is kind of evolving. I feel like there are lots of first generation and second generation people that are looking for that, just like, you know, I'm living now in a country that is not my parents' country, and how do I bring them in my daily life? And I think
Like,
that's very
yeah,
amazing. And it's just really an
yeah,
evolution
it's
of,
really,
you know, how
mm,
we, yeah, put things together. It's very nice.
yeah, exactly. But that's something like, when I'm in the atelier, there are a lot of people, Tunisian local people, that come and they sell their really old pieces that they have already for generations long already in the family. And because they need money, they just sell it. But these pieces are, you have no idea how crazy they are. They are so detailed and really heavy, because back
Mm-hmm.
then they really weren't like so many jewelries. And I'm like, they're all selling it, and like even the kids after, they will not even know about it anymore, because
Mm-hmm.
it's getting sold to to like goldsmith that will sell it to I think even people out of Tunisia, because the country, or like even sometimes people of my age, we didn't grow up with that, and we think, oh, it's old, it's tradition, I will not wear it.
Yeah, exactly.
um, and I also thought like that a couple of years ago. But when you see it and you confront with these beautiful pieces, you're like, we have to do something with it,
Mm-hmm.
because before it gets lost. And then when it's lost, it's lost. You cannot take it back, and it's like a part of the history that is just gone. And that's why I also have this idea to really do an exposition and to show, like, look what we have, and look what we made, and look what our grandmothers were worn back in the days. And
Mm-hmm.
um, so yeah, it's like getting lost. But I also feel that people of my age also start to go back to this, and
Yeah.
to try to reintroduce it in our daily lives. And that's why some pieces are really small, and I'm like, okay, it's still small, minimalistic and simple, but the shapes are there, and we can still wear it. And that's how we can like take the history back to you.
Mm-hmm.
um so that's how. But like people try to sell, because they don't even see it anymore, because it's just laying there. um
Yeah.
but I think, yeah, it's a way of bringing it back to us. And um but for me it's nice, because they all come to the guy with who I'm working with, and I see all these gems, and it's so beautiful. And I'm like, wow, I'm just sitting there being mesmerized from like all day long, and I'm like, my hands are so dirty at the end of the day, because it's all silver, and you always have like a black layer.
Mm-hmm.
um, and if I could, I would be there weeks, like just collecting and starting to like create an exposition like just there if I could, because it's so beautiful. But yeah, I think, yeah, I think there's a change. Like our generation is really trying to go back to our roots in an other way than just going back to our homeland and be with family, because
I
that's
really
how
think
I
so
was
too.
in the beginning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that, you know, like our grandparents' generation, I feel like the word tradition can just be very heavy, because I feel like a lot of people, when they hear like tradition, they think like conservative and very, you know, very just like
Yeah.
not very open-minded. Um, but I think like our grandparents' generation, they still lived the tradition, and the generation before us, so our parents, just had so many changes in their life and didn't really like live they know the tradition, but they kind of didn't want it. They put it like kind of aside. They were like, oh no, I have to, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know, like build a new life, just go somewhere else, and I have to do something. And they didn't have time to appreciate the tradition, even if they know it. And I feel like our generation now, we have like so many sources. We have internet, books, we can go anywhere.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not with the pandemic, but usually we can go anywhere.
Yeah. We
And
do.
and now I think like our generation is just craving to go back to the roots and be like, where do I come from? And this is so cool, but I don't know anything about this. It's part of my normal life, but I don't know where it comes from. And I think it's very amazing, and kind of, you know, but we are already living somewhere else with in a different world. So we're trying to combine the two things, and it makes a very nice product. And then there is an evolution
Yeah,
of the
it does. Yeah.
tradition. Yeah.
And I think like when you realize that when all the time here, when you don't really look Belgian, and there they also can see it like after 1 second that you're not really from
Mm-hmm.
Tunisia, but that you're from like Europe. You always have to say in Belgium, oh, I have Tunisian roots, or I'm Tunisian. And there you have to say, I'm Belgian. And then I had this struggle a couple of years, and I was like, but am I really Tunisian? Am I really Belgian actually?
Yeah.
Because you're supposed to be Belgian, but also Tunisian. And then you're like, but what do I know about it actually?
Yeah.
Besides just going to Tunisia each year and see my family and try to speak properly Tunisian or / Arabic, what do I really have from there actually?
Yeah.
It's this feeling. And then when you have this feeling and you realize that, then you really try to go look for your roots, what is really about, and which tradition, and do I like, and can I relate to, or because there are always also many things that are kind of weird that I think, okay, this
Mm-hmm.
is not logic, because we have two perspectives now, from
Yeah.
Belgian and from Tunisian. So we can use that. It's a good tool to like filter and know what is good for you, what works for you, and what is like feels nice too. So when we start this process, then it's nice. And then I'm more sure when I say if I'm Tunisian or Belgian, or I'm just both.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah, you're kind of in the middle. You don't even know. It's just like,
you're
I'm
all
here.
the time in the middle. Exactly, I'm here. Like, oh yeah, okay, I'm not really Tunisian, I'm Belgian, you know? And then it's switched when you go to the other country.
Yeah.
But now I kind of accepted it. I'm like, yeah, I'm just in between all the time. So it's okay. And you have so many like positive things being in between, like
Yeah.
different languages, different ways of seeing things. You have also more resources. So it
Mm-hmm.
can be annoying sometimes, but now I'm like, yeah, I just have both. And that's really good for me, actually. I'm so happy I have both.
I feel like we're kind of creating like a new community that it's taking a lot from the tradition and from our heritage, but it's a different thing. I don't know if you know what I
Yeah, I
mean.
think, yeah, no, I know exactly what you try to explain. I think it's different. I think we are evolving, and we don't really want to go back and do all the same things, because first of all, I think that we communicate already more than the previous generation. We
Yeah.
try to discuss more. We try to like discuss the different things in the tradition that are not okay, or like that are really like maybe are really nice to do, and that maybe we have to pursue more. So I think it's, like you said, a mix of two things, and we created a new product. but like the main things of the tradition are still in there.
Yeah.
So I think is that the main component are still there, but we try to give it another shape or form. So I think it's different because we as humans, we keep evolving. I think the different languages, everyone speaks English now, or speaks other language that we can like really relate to each other. So I'm sure that we are just really creating something new, but still with like the main components of our traditions. So
Yeah.
and I think it's a good thing because now I think it's like even more than ever that it's really important that we do that, and that we talk about it, and that we can also be really honest because there are so many things in my cultural tradition that I'm not really okay with, or that I'm uncomfortable with, but that maybe someone else is really comfortable with, or that person really wants to go for it, and I'm like, yeah, okay, do your thing, but we all just have to be open to do it on our own way. So I think this is like really the difference with like the previous cultures, that we communicate more about it.
Do you actually like feel closer to the Belgian tradition or the Tunisian one? Did it change in the years?
At a certain point, when I was really young, I felt more Tunisian, because I always have to say, I'm Tunisian, because when I told them I'm Belgian, or I knew that their question, where are you from, was where are your roots from? So I always had to say, from Tunisia, from Tunisia, from Tunisia. And I was like, yeah, so I'm Tunisian, actually, I'm not Belgian. And then I had this certain moment in my life, I was like, yeah, actually, I'm not really Tunisian, because when I go to Tunisia, they're all telling me, you're Belgian. And I'm like, no, I'm not. But then I'm like, I can speak the language, but not that good. I will have a conversation with someone there, and they will like right away know that I'm not from there because I have an accent.
Yeah.
But now when I was like doing my jewellery, and when I see like my culture and my education at home, I honestly feel a little bit more Tunisian now. Because first I did not. I was like, no, actually I'm Belgian, I'm not Tunisian. But through the years now, I feel more Tunisian. I think now in this moment, I feel more Tunisian.
I feel like that's also like a constant evolution, like just like of culture identity.
Yeah, it's
or just
changing.
like, one day you're like, oh my God, I'm so Flemish. Like, I'm just so Flemish. Another day you look up and I'm like, no, I'm very, Tunisian, or whatever. And I feel like it's a constant change. It changes like all the time.
Exactly.
And you can't really
like in Tunisia, like in Tunisia, you always have like this way of working, like they really take their time, and they have another way of working. And then I'm like, I start to be a little bit irritated, and I'm like, I'm so Flemish. I cannot handle this. And then I'm like, okay, calm down, Ismahen, you're in Tunisia now. It's another way of working. It's another way of living. Try to make the switch. But in these moments, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so Belgian. I'm so like, everything needs to be like on point and on time. But I also have this when I'm here. So like you said, it's evolving all the time. When you feel more Tunisian or more something else. But now it's more Tunisian.
Do you think we're all gonna become one, and just like all traditions and cultures are gonna go together?
I think if I imagine it with, for example, my kids later, I think it will be different in a way that, like I said, we communicate even more, we discuss more different topics. There's much less, there's less taboo. So I think for me it will still be important to like bring them back to Tunisia or something, so that they know about, and I will also try to learn it, try to speak about it, to tell about it through like really small things. But I think there will still be different cultures and traditions, but I think there will be more like maybe one language where, like, for example, even if someone, because I have a lot of friends coming from everywhere, but we still like we get each other when we come here in Belgium, and they have other countries. I think getting each other and like know the struggles, like you also have like positive sides, that this will be something that we will always have in common between the different cultures, but you will still have differences, I think. But getting each other, that will be something more common, because most of the next generation will be like between different cultures, because the parents are coming from different countries. And I think there will be more understanding about having a different culture. It will not be weird anymore, or it will not, you'll not always have to explain yourself, because this is also exhausting to always have to explain it, where you're coming from, even though you just go there for the summer and you realize you don't really know a lot about your own history, but still you have to, you know, I think there will be more understanding about it, and that you will also see the people more than their culture.
Yeah.
Because sometimes that's also a feeling that I have, is that I'm always reduced to my roots, even though I'm proud of my roots and I'm proud to be whatever I am. But to always be reduced to that is exhausting. And this is something that I hope will change and will not be there anymore. And that there will be like, they will see each other more as like being a people with like passions and other interests. And yeah, I don't know, that this will not be again the main topic when they meet someone with a different culture.
Yeah, indeed.
That's
Like
a bit,
I also want to think that, like, I really hope that, but I feel like that's a very like utopic idea.
yeah, maybe maybe in 200 or 300 years.
Where can people find you? Where can people find your work?
So I have my own website. So we on fayahen.com, and on Instagram and or Facebook, or also by email, just fayahen@gmail.com. So I'm kind of a little bit everywhere on social media. I'm not on Twitter, because Twitter is way too savage, and I'm already enough on social media. So I try to just do like the minimum. But I think it's kind of already enough. But yeah, we will see in the future. But I'm kind of everywhere to find. So yeah.
Okay.
Fayahen.
Thank you so much for this talk. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Olivia.
Thank you too.
You too. Bye.